Okay, everyone, back in the car for Wilson's training. Okay. I have not made that video for you guys yet about all the different levels of the Starwood pet travel stuff, but I have spoken to my coordinator, and so I do have quite a bit of updates for you guys. With school and Wilson's training and cleaning around the house and all this other stuff and getting the dogs ready, there's so much going on right now that I just have not had the time to sit down and get all of the clips I need for you guys to make that video. Okay. But here are some extra things that they don't tell you prior to signing up. Now, it's not a major deal. I will say I'm not a huge fan of people withholding information until you sign up and then whacking you with more stuff. I'm not a fan of that. Okay. However, this is a tad different than the ways I typically dislike it. Okay. Because this is something I need to do no matter what. Whereas some other things that has happened with, it's like, okay, if I would have known that prior to, I wouldn't have signed up, you know? So, whereas this is it's moving our dogs. I don't really have a choice. But I still don't like the fact that there's a lot more things that I need to do that were not quite explained in the beginning. But anyways, so some of those things. So I had my coordination call. So she's the one that's going to basically ensure that we stay on top of the timing for everything. Since we're not leaving until the end of January, we have some time, but not a whole lot of time. Okay. So we have to start scheduling those vet visits now, because all of the vaccines that they need cannot be administered within, I think it's 21 days. We'll just say 30 to be safe. Okay. Cannot be administered within that window. They must be older than 30 days, but no older than a year. Okay. So they're right in that sweet spot to start getting everything that they need. Okay. Now, they're already microchipped, right? So, but Stacy is still under Maria. So we have to call them, get Stacy over to us, because all of the vet documents have to have their microchip numbers. Then we also have to get them more vaccines than I thought. Okay. And this is what I mean by none of this stuff was stated ahead of time. And if you don't know these things, you don't know. And then you'll get told afterwards that you need to get these things done. But again, since it is the dogs, I didn't really have a choice, and that again was mainly just the vaccines. That is the bigger kind of thing, just because that's expensive. When you start planning vet visits and you do the vaccines separately, because the lepto, they actually recommend that that's the only one that you get done that day, because they can potentially have adverse reactions to that vaccine. That is one reason why my dogs have never had that vaccine. Same with Bordetella. So my dogs have had the DHPP, whatever, parvo, all that jazz, and the rabies and all that jazz, but they never needed Bordetella or lepto or anything like that. So we never got it for them. But Starwood requires them to have Bordetella. So Thailand in itself only requires the rabies vaccine. There are other vaccines that are recommended, but not required. Okay, the only one to enter that is required is the rabies vaccine. Okay, which they're good to go. Well, we got to get in, but they've been getting that their whole life. But the Lepto and Bordetella, they've never got. Starwood requires the Bordetella. Lepto is highly recommended because that is a pretty big problem over there. Okay, so that's 2 dogs and 3 vaccines per dog, and that's more than 1 vet visit because, like I said, they recommend the Lepto to be on its own in case they have any kind of adverse reaction. They know that it's the Lepto, especially with the little dog. Okay, so they said in most cases the vet will usually give like Benadryl or something prior to giving the Lepto, just to kind of make sure that they don't have any problems. We're also getting into holiday season, so we've got to do those before the vets decide to take week-long breaks and stuff. Then they also, after getting the rabies vaccine, about 3 weeks later need blood tests. So that's another vet visit, and that's probably a hefty one because they're drawing blood, so that's probably going to be a couple $100. The vaccines are going to be a couple $100. Then they also need an internal dewormer and an external flea and tick, which they've been getting external flea and tick stuff for forever. The internal dewormer, I don't think any of them have done that since they were puppies, because you do that when they're a puppy. And then unless they have problems, like, you really don't need to keep doing that. So I'm over here thinking they just need their rabies shot. So then to get whacked with Lepto and Bordetella and a blood test and the internal and external stuff. So I'm just like, that raises the cost by probably close to another $1,000. So that's fun. So you're paying, $15,000 or $7,000. Basically anywhere from about $8,000 to $15,000. But then now with all this vet stuff, you're adding on another probably $1,000 to that. So just make sure that you understand that you're likely going to have additional costs outside of what you're paying the travel company. Okay, so when you start looking at this from start to finish, and you're paying anywhere from $9,000 to $16,000, $17,000 for 2 dogs, that's kind of crazy. Like, now I understand why that lady was like, is it worth it to bring you here? But we will not leave our dogs behind. Okay, so I know that there are some of you that don't care about your dogs that much that you would leave them behind, but we won't do that. So they're coming with us. Okay. Let's see. What else? I got my welcome packet. It's literally just like a little couple pages. It should have the care tags for the dogs in there, and then the little thing to put on the wall to measure them for their kennel. So I have to do that, which when I do that, I'll record it, showing you guys what's kind of in the care package, putting the little thing on the wall and trying to measure the dog, because that's probably the hardest part, because he wouldn't stop moving. Neither of them would stop moving, but at least the little dog, we know she goes in a little kennel. Rocco's concern is he may or may not need a custom crate, because freaking German Shepherds and their big old ears. So we have to do that. Then she asked for the dates of when we'd basically be leaving, because you have to arrive within 5 days of your dogs arriving, whether you're arriving before them or after them, but it has to be within 5 days. So we want to get there before the dogs get there. That way, hopefully by then we've got a home, we've got, everything. So we want to get there like a day or two before them. Which we may or may not have a home by then, but oh god. There's a lot going on. Okay. But okay, what else? I told her about, the temperament and behavior of the dogs, my concerns in flight. Luckily, she said that in, I think, the 12 years she's been working there and the 8 years that the other girl's been working there, that no dogs have passed from the flights. And so that's good, because they said they fly thousands of dogs a year. She said they typically fly like 20 plus every single day. So we know that they're flying a lot of dogs, and the fact that none have passed in flight, is good news for me, because that's something I was worried about, because my dogs are getting a little older and they're very anxious. And so I was like, I can't, like, what happens if that happens? Okay. Now, this is sometimes the thing that sucks about bad things not happening. And bear with me when I say that, because some of you are probably like, why would you want bad things to happen? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when something like that has never happened, typically they don't quite have protocols, procedures, things in place for when or if that does happen, because it's never happened. So when I asked them what would happen if that happened, they were kind of like, we don't know, because it's never happened. So we don't know what would need to be done. And I'm like, okay, so like, we don't know. And with what I've learned about Thailand, when it comes to those things, like, people passing on and stuff like that, cremation is done at a temple, not at the vet. And people that I've spoken to, many people, unfortunately, have said it was a horrible experience. And so I just kind of worried, if that happened, what is the process? Are they going to give me my dog and let me take it somewhere and hope that they'll agree to cremate him? Will I get him, but then what happens if they don't let me cremate him? And like I said, they don't know, because it's never happened. And so it's like, so that is something that I kind of worry about, but at the same time don't worry about, if that makes sense. Like, I guess I don't necessarily worry about them passing, because at some point they're going to pass, I'm going to pass, we're all going to pass, right? It sucks. It's part of life. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. But I guess I wouldn't want that to be how they go, like maybe scared and stressed on the plane all alone, and that's how they go, and then the uncertainty around what happens. Do I get them? That's kind of where the worry is coming from. Not necessarily the which I know that to some of you that might sound bad, like, oh, you're not worried about them. No, I am, but not like, I'm more worried about what would happen if that happened. Okay. I'm not necessarily worried that it will happen. It's the process afterwards. Okay. that's just, they're just so unsure. And even they said they were going to reach out to their contacts in Thailand to see what would, if they've got a procedure even for if that happens, because on Starwood's side they've never dealt with that, but Thailand probably deals with more import than just Starwood, so there's a possibility that Thailand has dealt with that before, just Starwood has not. So yeah, we'll I think the dogs will be fine. I don't think we'll have any problem there. Just, I tend to worry a little bit about those kinds of things. What else? We talked about a lot of stuff. But basically, what's next is getting them set up with their vet appointments to get all this stuff taken care of. But we got to do the microchip stuff first because it needs to be in our name. So I'm going to, and the weird thing is it's actually all under my husband's name. Rocco is under my husband's name, which is weird because I'm pretty sure I'm the one that set that up. But for some reason, it's under my husband's name. So they won't let me do anything or add Stacy with Rocco because Rocco's under my husband. So my husband has to call and add Stacy to us with Rocco. So let's see. They'll get picked up like a day before their flight. Somebody will come to the house and pick them up. And then somebody will drop them off to our house in Hua Hin once we have that address. But we may have to stay at a hotel. And when it comes to pet-friendly hotels in Thailand, they're limited. And then even the limited amount of pet-friendly hotels, they're even more limiting on the size of dog. Okay. So typically they want the dog under 15 kilograms. So we'll just say roughly 35 pounds. Okay. They want it under that. Well, my shepherd weighs like 75 pounds. So we're looking at like 35 kilograms this dog weighs. So they are pet friendly when it comes to small dogs. And you guys have heard me say this so many times because so many people are, Thailand is pet friendly. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not pet friendly. It's really not very pet friendly. They're pet friendly to small dogs, and if you have one dog, but even then, since they have so many stray dogs, so many street dogs, even that is not pet friendly to walk your dog around town. You need to go somewhere where there's like no stray dogs or no possibility of running into stray dogs in the city. So it's, and so many homes, no, not pet friendly, not pet friendly, not pet friendly, not pet friendly. Oh, how many dogs do you have? 2? Oh, no, they only want 1. Or, oh, only a little one. And it's like, okay, you can't sit there and say you're pet friendly when you only accept little dogs. Like, that's not pet friendly. That's small dog only friendly. Okay. Like the same with cats. I think that they've got some rules with the cats too, but since cats are like the size of a small dog, you'd probably be a little easier to find accommodation with a cat. But when it comes to like, taking it places and stuff, that would be probably a no-no. What in the world? Hopefully it's not on fire over there. It looks more like dust. It's just getting kicked up, but it looks kind of smoky. Okay, anyways, that was like off topic. We're at the park. It could just be the like lawn people, which like I said, I don't get why these people mow this lawn like every single day, but yeah, it's looking a little kind of, you guys won't be able to see it on the camera, but I'll have to ask my husband when he comes back around, because if that's dirt, that's a lot of dirt getting kicked up. There better not be no fire. But okay, I'm gonna go now because this video is like 20 minutes long and I really didn't want it to be that long. But I wanted to give you guys all of those updates and everything that's going on, how I'm feeling about all of this that I have to do. My husband's running right now, so that's another reason why he's not in this video. And we haven't had the time to sit down and put him in a freaking video talking about the way he feels about moving to Thailand. So I know I still owe you guys those 2 videos. Just, it's probably gonna be a month before you, because all of his free time is spent doing his training. But his race is about a month and a week from now. So once he's done with that race, we will have a little bit more time to actually do these videos that I keep telling you guys I'm going to give you. You're going to get them. Just other things are more important right now. So just bear with me there. If you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments and I will answer your questions. So if you're curious about the pricing or why it's so high or whatever, I do have some other videos where I did talk about how much we are actually paying, what all it includes, okay? But if you have any other questions, just drop it in the comments and I will either type it back to you or I will create another video answering your questions, okay? But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.